Well, there we have Chopin's immediately unrecognizable, but at the same time absolutely recognizable, recently discovered waltz in the Morgan Library and Museum in New York, where I gather that a curator in the museum was sort of sorting out some of the old catalogues and discovered a card with a score on it, an old card, and Chopin's handwritten name on it. Didn't recognise the music and decided to investigate, clearly thought something was interesting about it. And when it was submitted for analysis, and what became clear fairly quickly was that the handwriting was Chopin's, because there are certain specific things that Chopin did that were idiosyncratic. He had a particular way of writing bass clefs, for example. So that the penmanship was Chopin's, the paper was the right type. But actually, most compelling of all, for those of us who are musicians, is the music itself. This is absolutely, I think it's almost impossible that it could be a forgery. I'll try to explain why that is, but I think the style is so entirely individual that even somebody who was really amazing and really knew Chopin's music and could pastiche him, it does things that are completely characteristic, but I don't think you do it. You wouldn't dare to do those things if you were forging it. So anyway, it's completely authentic. So it's really exciting because it's a new piece of Chopin. Chopin's just dropped a single, and we've got it 200 years late, pretty much, because it would have been written, it looks as if it was written between 1830 and 1835. No one really knows why. It's very short, of course. It's not a fully worked out waltz like the great published waltzes. It's a miniature. But of course, Chopin's output is full of miniatures. Some of his mazurkas are like this. They're written on one page. And there's a repeat mark at the end of it, which makes me think it's almost like some of the mazurkas that Chopin wrote, which are ad infinitum mazurkas. In other words, you can repeat and repeat and repeat. And this piece could work like that. It's so beautiful that you could repeat it almost any number of times. So it is possibly one of his ad infinitum type pieces. It has a kind of circling, melancholy quality. So I think it's really exciting that it's been discovered. Why is it exciting? Because I didn't say anything, for example, a couple of weeks ago when a piece by Mozart was discovered. And we've been talking a lot about Mozart on the channel. And I didn't particularly feature that piece because I didn't think it was especially interesting. And dare I say that, it's not clearly by Mozart. It's an early serenade by Mozart. But we've been talking a lot on this programme in our recent videos about Glenn Gould and so on, and the tropes of classical style. The Little Mozart Serenade that was discovered, of course it's interesting because it's by Mozart, but it's a very early work. He would have been very, very young, probably a teenager when he wrote it. And it seems to consist mainly of what I would, and Gould identified, and I would agree with him, as just the tropes of classical style being wheeled out in a perfectly competent way, but it's not especially interesting. There are Mozart pieces that are so fascinating and thrilling and extraordinary from later in his career, but I don't think the Serenade is equivalent to those. So it's of historic interest, but it's not of particular musical interest. This Chopin waltz isn't like that. I think it's marvellous. So let's talk about it. And before we go further into this topic, I should say, welcome to the channel. This is the Music Professor channel. Please like and subscribe. My co-presenter is with me. This is Loki, the cockapoo, and he's enjoying being there. He doesn't have a lot to say about Chopin, but he will lie and listen to it on his rug and maybe scratch himself occasionally. But look, back to the topic. Why does it matter? I guess something is coming up a lot in current videos, the whole business of AI composition, and we've done a video recently about getting a computer to sort of generate Mozartian material. And it's provoked a lot of discussion on the channel about AI competence when it comes to composition. While I accept the extraordinary wonders of computer technology, though these things are unquestionable, I do query the capability of AI to generate interesting musical material, particularly on its own. and I see no evidence, even in the primitive examples, and they are primitive at the moment, and no doubt they'll become less primitive, but there's something about AI composition, in my estimation, which is capable only of imitation, currently quite poor imitation, but even if it gets better, there is nothing in it that equates to real human composition, which is full of human emotion, human experience, and that wonderful thing that is unique to human genius, which is the capacity to observe the world around us and create a work, an artwork, which in some way encapsulates our experience of the world around us in such a way that we reflect back something extremely deep and significant about what it means to be a human being. That's what art is, and that is, for example, what Chopin's music is. Let's have a look at this waltz and see how it works, because it's interesting, it's fascinating, and all the more fascinating because I think I might be one of the first people to comment on it as a piece of music, not in terms of its provenance or its authenticity. I think I've already discussed that, but it actually as a piece. So what we've got here, how many bars is it? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, right. It's 24 bars long. That's not very long. And it begins, at least the first 1, 2, 3, 8 of those bars are, broadly speaking, introductory. And then you have 16 bars of melodic material. So it's sort of a third and 2/3. So the first third is introductory in a rhetorical sense, but I don't mean that as an introduction, like a section or anything like that. It's all seamlessly one piece. But what I would call the introductory material is this marvelous opening, which is like an improvisatory fragment where you have this pedal A going on in the bass, no waltz vamp or anything, just the pedal A, and then this wonderful da da da, melancholy, lamenting, very characteristic of Chopin, chromatic drop. But it's notated within a almost a Baroque figuration. You know, by Baroque I mean that sort of thing where you have a pedal note. You know, makes you think of a Bach toccata or something. That sort of passage work that you get endlessly in Baroque music. This isn't Baroque music at all. This is mid-19th century music, this is early Romantic music, but Chopin was absolutely aware of Bach. In fact, Bach was his favourite composer, so it's completely plausible to think of it in those terms. A sort of contrapuntal movement in the tenor voice. So you have a solitary A at the beginning, the chromatic sigh, and then this wonderful chord that's so characteristic of him, slightly harsh, a dissonance, a dark dissonance. So the lamenting figure, and then the cadence off that dissonance. So you get the dissonant chord, it's a diminished chord over a tonic pedal that resolves to A minor, and then the repetition with an accent, but this time it doesn't resolve. He repeats it 3 times, amazing, and then the 3 times, so it simply builds up tension on that dissonance. And then you get this wonderful and uniquely Chopinesque sort of outburst, a fortissimo outburst, wonderful, like a fire kind of exploding. How does he do that? You know, normal composers can't do that, and anyone in the 1830s, anyone else, you know, might have given you a diminished seventh, but it's this combination of this chord, the diminished chord over the tonic pedal in the left hand, the diminished seventh in the form of descending thirds, but best of all, these appoggiaturas, which themselves form a different diminished seventh, the other one. So you got that one and that one as a bunch of appoggiaturas. It's magnificent. So it has this kind of ferocity that is absolutely his and no one else. Not even Liszt, really. It's very characteristic of Frédéric Chopin. I'd challenge anyone to doubt the authenticity on the basis of any of this. It's absolutely gold, really. Isn't that beautiful? And of course they form these interesting chords as well. That's B flat major, that's G, that's E, that's C sharp, that's B flat. Do you see? So there are these wonderful tertiary drops. So it's almost, you know, bitonal or polytonal or something. Of course it isn't really, it's that, but it's decorated in this richly coloured way. Messiaen, who I've mentioned more than once on this channel, said that Chopin, of all composers, apart from Mozart, I think, he said Chopin's music is full of colour, these wonderful colours, these wonderful chromatic colorations of harmony. Wonderful. Then there's the first 8 bars going into the melody. This is where the vamp begins, and the melody emphasises the E that we've already had emphasised through the introduction with, there's the E, E. So he's built up this sort of sense of E being the dominant note, and there's the E as the beginning of the melody, and that the dropping figures of A, G sharp, F double sharp in the melody mirror the dropping of the lamenting 3 notes at the beginning. Do you see how in Chopin everything adds up? That's why this couldn't not be Chopin, because everything is integrated and developed in a very subtle way. So we get the first phrase, so that with the 3 dropping notes, back to the E. Look at this, the chromatic falling thumb going all the way down to da 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 da. It's sort of it's the elegance of it. It's so stylish. And look at that rhythm, 1, 2, 3, with a little dotted rhythm at the end of the bar, just emphasising the 3rd beat. And the 3rd beat again, a bit like a mazurka. It's just got that subtlety of rhythm. He does it again, and this time, do you notice everything's been A minor with 1 bar of E7 at the end? So isn't that magnificent? Because it doesn't need to modulate. Tonic, 5, but with an A at the bottom. So moving between 1 and 5, but always with the A at the bottom. And only here do we need 5 to take us back into take us like a perfect cadence back into the 2nd phrase. Now this time he breaks the right hand into 2 parts, like a duet, an operatic duet, very characteristic of Chopin, as we turn beautifully to the relative major. Do you notice the bass going A to A flat G? Does that remind you of something? Yes, it does. The beginning, so the same 3 chromatic notes. But the sun comes out just for a moment as we go to C major. There's a held C in the bass. The meaning here is that you have 3 rising notes, C, D, E, going from the relative major to this very poignant modulating bar, or a bar that's taking us back sort of inexorably to A minor, to melancholy again. So there's that brief moment when the sun comes out, or there's a moment of hope, there's a moment of some sort of resolution in a happier place, but he immediately pulls us back. Very typical of Chopin's sort of dark, pessimistic view of the world, I think, that it does that. Wonderfully melancholy. And then it can apparently repeat ad infinitum. I would say this is like the ad infinitum mazurkas. It's potentially a piece that could go on forever. So fantastic, what a discovery, how exciting. So there's a brief introduction to Chopin's new Waltz in A minor. How privileged we are to have it, and how exciting that a curator at the Morgan Library and Museum in New York has had the kind of intuition to realise that something exciting was going on when he found it. Let's hope there are other things out there that are like this, waiting to be discovered. There are so many lost masterpieces, so who knows, maybe something else is going to turn up, but this is very exciting. Thank you for watching.